I call Stuart Smith.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I'd like to start by acknowledging the previous speaker's knowledge on the subject, but I would like to make one small correction. 85% of the grapes that go into a make-up of wine can indeed come from one geographical indicator, and 15% of the remaining, if the grower chooses to, must come from within New Zealand. So that still remains, but it has been changed to not allow any wine, to make it clear the wine grapes cannot come from overseas to claim that same geographical indicator. But Mr Speaker, I want to bring a little bit of my own personal experience to this debate, because I was involved with New Zealand wine growers when, prior to the Registration Act in 2006 being passed, and we sought to have that bill passed, and then we sought to have it not enacted, really for good reasons around trade. And trade with the EU can be fraught, particularly around agricultural products. And the one card that we had to play was not having the Geographical Indications Act actually enforced in law at that stage. However, time's moved on. We are now in a position where we want that to pass through, and the wine industry wants that. I'm no longer involved in it. I do note New Zealand wine growers are here present today, but it is a very important bill. New Zealand wine industry relies on selling on its good name, and I think one of the things that to bring to this is about how the geographical indicator really is so important in selling wine, because the consumers like to know the provenance of the product that they are drinking. And in fact, I thought one of the things I'd talk about today is terroir, which is the French word for, which means really the place, the geography, the soil, the climate, and the people that are involved in making the wine. So it doesn't really have a literal English translation. And I have heard it described in a New Zealand context with the Māori word tūranga waiwai, the place to stand. And I think that is quite appropriate. But in a sense where wine consumers can and do recognise styles of wine and where they come from by the taste, because the grapes like Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, they are grown all around the world. But New Zealand Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc is a unique product, and it has a unique taste to it, and that comes from the terroir. Even though you can isolate different flavours down to a part in a vineyard, Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc is quite distinctive and easily picked up by other people around the world knowing exactly what that is. And it's really important that this bill be passed and so that those customers and their consumers can have their confidence when they pick up a bottle with Marlborough on the label that that's what it'll be. Likewise with Central Otago Pinot Noir, that also has its own unique terroir, and you could also say the same for a Hawke's Bay Syrah. So all of those flavours are important to people, and they're prepared to pay it. I like my colleague across the floor, Mr Farfoy, who likes his Scotch whisky, and it's the same principle applies. So, allegedly. Well, he said so. So, Mr Speaker, I think that all these things come back to why is the wine industry so successful? And I think, given that we're in the midst of a TPP negotiation or ratification, I should mention the reason that the wine industry is so successful and why we need these geographical indicators passed goes right back to the CER being passed, when the wine industry had to face the harsh winds of competition, and it really made the wine industry fit for exporting because it had to deliver what the customers want. And rather than just producing a wine that people had no choice, they had to buy what was available, it didn't matter where it was grown, the industry then had to focus on the consumer. And that's when all of our unique terroirs were actually discovered. Rather than just being able to grow grapes, they were able to grow grapes that made wine that were distinctive. So that's what led to that, Mr Speaker. The New Zealand, South Island and North Island geographical indicators that will be enduring, that are part of this bill, are important, Mr Speaker, because if there is a weather event and a wine company needs more grapes to fill up, to actually make its wine, it can still have a geographical indicator of the South Island, or if all of the grapes are sourced from within the South Island, or New Zealand if it comes from across the islands. And that's a really important trade point, Mr. Speaker, so that will be very important that comes in with the bill. Likewise, having a renewal of the geographical indicators every 10 years gives an opportunity to push boundaries in or pull them out or pull them back in if that is required as time goes on. But, Mr. Speaker, it's been a great pleasure to support this bill, and it's been a long time coming, and I've been waiting since 2005, I think, when we really started talking about this, until today. So it's a great pleasure that I commend this bill to the House. Thank you.